long and storied history. And we're funded by 2 federal grants for 2 programs. One is the University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, and there's 68 USEDs, with at least one in every state and territory, who work with people with disabilities, their families, state and community agencies, and providers to provide services, supports, technical assistance, research dissemination, to build capacity in the communities for the people who we work with. The LEND programs, there are 60 programs in every state, and as well as Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, 6 of the Pacific Basin Islands. So we're all over the place. And what we do, the LEND program is Leadership, Education, and Neurodevelopmental Disability, and that's supported by another one of our federal grants. And we do interdisciplinary training for a wide range of disciplines that work with people with disabilities. And we also have family members in our training programs, as well as those with lived experiences. Our mission is to promote the individuality, inclusion, active community engagement, health and well-being of all people of diverse backgrounds with developmental disabilities and their families. So IDD Awareness Day brings together self-advocates, family members, researchers, educators, providers, case managers, advocacy groups to highlight the value and worth of people with IDD, the people who support them, the successes and challenges facing the IDD community, and the work we do together to continue to support people with IDD in Colorado. This is a community awareness event where we educate legislators and the IDD community. We do this best by sharing our stories. Today you will hear from a parent, direct support professional, a case manager, and a self-advocate. We will be presenting awards to honor individuals who work and advocate for the IDD community. The event is being broadcast live on Alliance Facebook page, and recordings will be available on the event website. We know that many are hosting watch parties across the state since traveling to Denver and seating at this luncheon is limited. I'd like to welcome the IDD community listed on this slide. Do we have the slide up? I don't think so. We do? Okay, there we go. These are invited statewide agencies that RSVP to attend today, though many more partners support the work we all do who are not listed. Finally, this event is hosted by JFK Partners, the ARC of Colorado, and the Alliance, just a few of the agencies supporting people with disabilities and professionals who serve them. So now it's my pleasure to introduce one of our other hosts, Elizabeth Moran from the ARC of Colorado. Thank you.
Good afternoon. How is everyone? Are you good? My name is Elizabeth Moran, and I have the great honor of serving as the Executive Director for the ARC of Colorado. For those of you who aren't already familiar with the ARC and our network, we provide system advocacy, public awareness, community education, and support for self-advocacy organizations across the state for Coloradans with intellectual and developmental disabilities. My chapter serves as the primary legislative and public policy arm of our network. We are a chapter of 15 total, and I'm going to give my shameless plug, as I do at almost every event that they let me stand in front of a microphone with. If you are not already shopping and donating at ARC thrift stores, do. Let me tell you why. One, it's good to recycle, repurpose, reuse, right? But also, the ARC thrift stores are the largest employer for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in our state. And I would probably say arguably in our region, if not in the nation, at least by percentages. But here's the other beautiful thing about an organization that creates integrated competitive employment for individuals with IDD. They take those profits and they reinvest them in those individuals to help them build community. They have ARC University, they have an ambassadors program, and then they take all of those profits and they put those profits in a pot. And then that pot has an allocation committee, and that allocation committee then distributes that money out to all 15 of our ARC chapters. And that is how we are primarily funded, privately funded by Coloradans for Coloradans. It stays here. And what it does is it allows chapters like ours to provide free advocacy. We go to families, we go to schools, we go to employment settings. We help them lift up their voices, honor the rights of persons with disabilities, and navigate systems free. It's an incredible resource. So there's my plug. All right. I am joined today by many of my colleagues who are executive directors at your local state ARC chapters. I just want you to know what they look like. So if they're sitting at your table, you can ask them what they do, what kind of programs. Would my ARC executives please stand and give us a wave so people can see who you are? I see Lori Ropa, I see Lincoln, Pam, Amelia, Georgia, Kimberly, thank you. If you're not already familiar with the work that we do at the ARC of Colorado, please tap into one of those individuals. So I think we know that legislative advocacy is the strength of our community. Each year, we track many, many bills at the Capitol that directly impact people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. To give you an example, this year, you may have heard about House Bill 117. The official title is Community Integration Plan, Individuals with Disabilities. And our colleagues over at Disability Law Colorado are taking point on that, and I couldn't be more thankful, because what it does is it takes a federal bill, for instance, that is guided by Olmstead, which is at risk of being overturned, that guarantees home and community-based services to help keep people out of institutional settings based on their medical diagnosis of a disability. It is just one example of how we are taking rights that we know to be true and good and making sure that they are in state law, regardless of what happens at the federal level. We're ensuring that Coloradans with IDD have a right to home and community-based settings. That's the kind of work we do, and that's powerful. And it's my chapter, it's all of our Disability Network partners, it's all of you coming to a day like this to raise awareness, to share your lived experience and your stories with our elected officials and our decision makers so that they know how their legislation and the things they are making decisions on impacts you. And it's so, so important. The ARC of Colorado also spends our summers doing what we call community engagement. We travel around the entire state of Colorado because we want to hear from folks where they are, where they live, what's working, what's not, what are the things that are working great that we can build upon, what are the gaps, and is it legislation, is it policy, is it conversations about just rules and regs that we need to look at and say, how can we do it better for you? We're looking at that. So if you come from one of those particularly rural communities and you would like us to visit with you, you would like us to partner with you to engage folks in your area, please let us know, because we want to do that. We want to hear from you, and we do it in what we call the off-season, June through the end of the year. One last thing that we do that I want to make sure this crowd knows. One of the things that we take very seriously is the ability for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who often rely on other people for their supports, for transportation, for arranging appointments, for getting information, for having a seat at the table. We understand that for folks who live here in the Denver metro area, that might be easier than it is for folks who live 50, 60 miles away, hours away. We want to make sure that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities have a seat at the table and have a voice. For that reason, we provide what we call travel scholarships or travel reimbursements. If you know of an individual with an intellectual or developmental disability and you know of an event, a legislative committee hearing, a meeting, something that they need to be at that is cost prohibitive, please let me know. Almost all of the grant writing that my team and I do is to make sure that those folks where having a seat at the table and having their voice heard is cost prohibited, we want to erase that. We want to make it so they can come. So I wanted to put that out there for all of you. So if you know of folks who want to have seats at tables and they just can't get there because of the money piece, please let us know. Okay. So we collaborate with legislators to develop policies, often based on ideas from you all, people in this room. Some of you may be speaking with legislators today about future legislation or policy changes. And speaking of legislators, we have many in attendance today. These are all the legislators that RSVP'd to this incredible event today. Please acknowledge them. We hope that everyone on this list was able to join us. We also recognize that some folks joined us last minute because they were able to join us. Legislators, elected officials in the room, if you wouldn't mind standing so that we can, one, say thank you, two, acknowledge, and just so folks can see who you are. Thank you so much for coming. All right, we try to have at least one legislator sitting at each table. I encourage you to take some time, particularly after this presentation, to talk with them. I also encourage you, if you're sitting at a table with folks that you've not met before, take a couple minutes, try to leave here with at least one new connection today. Because as a network, as a connected network, we are stronger together. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Josh Rail, to take it over. Let's get going.
Hello, friends. Many friends. This is like my 18th IDD Awareness Day here, so I grew up with you all, and I love it. It's my favorite day of the year. My name is Joshua Rael. I am the Executive Director of Alliance. Alliance is Colorado's nonprofit statewide association comprised of IDD case management and provider agencies. We have early intervention brokers and vendors and advocates also in our association. I also have the honor to serve as the representative, a board member at Anchor, which is our national association, where I co-chair the national IDD work. So I just love this work and so happy to be here with you all. Speaking of advocacy, I'm going to talk a little bit about the budget and the situation that we're in before we have our keynote speaker, who I think is literally walking over. But many of you probably heard that we are facing an unprecedented budget shortfall this year for next year's budget. And Alliance is working with state departments and legislators to educate people on the incredible investment that home and community-based services are, and particularly less expensive than the institutional settings. Alliance is working to brainstorm with cost-saving measures and ways that we can help during this really tough time. But because IDD services are primarily funded by Medicaid, they are disproportionately affected by cuts. So that's why we're here advocating and making sure that our legislators and our partners all know that. At the federal level, you've probably heard a lot about the federal level too. We at Alliance have launched the Medicaid Matters educational and advocacy campaign to support Anchor, our national partners, on some of the work in DC on pushing back against Medicaid cuts at the federal level. And we are also educating our congressional delegation, our state legislators, on the importance of Medicaid. And you all probably have the Medicaid Matters, or there's a lot of signs out there, and I know we've been doing some advocacy on how important it is to us. So please make sure and tell your story to your family, your friends, your legislators, and why Medicaid matters. A lot of you have already scheduled meetings with legislators. You've already set time to go to town hall meetings, and we encourage you to keep up the advocacy in your local communities. I believe our speaker is probably not here yet, but I'm going to just take a moment to talk about the Joint Budget Committee, which is the legislative body across the street, the committee that sets the budget for the year. They start working on it in November, and then they go through every single budget line item. They get the governor's budget. So the governor's office and all the departments are working on this all summer, all year. And then the budget committee gets it and they try to figure it out, and then they set a budget. And I believe they're trying to set the budget today or this week. So this is a very busy time. So the person that is and I'll introduce her in just a moment. But the JBC, or the Joint Budget Committee of our General Assembly, is doing incredibly challenging work this year to finalize that state budget. And in a couple of weeks, we ask and hope that our legislators will continue to do the same and look at home and community.
And the IDD Awareness House Tribute sponsor. Sponsors are Representative Dusty Johnson and Representative Shannon Bird. So thank you so much for sponsoring us. Yes. And then we want to thank our Pledge of Allegiance sponsor, Jeff Clark from Boulder County. I was in the House and you did an amazing job, so thank you so much. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our parent. Now, Jessie Paige is one of our LEND trainees. She's an amazing LEND trainee, and she has a very interesting background. She's a family member. She has 2 autistic daughters, and she's provided strong advocacy for more inclusive communities. She's a member of JFK Partners Community Advisory Committee that meets regularly, and more than half of those on the committee are either individuals with disabilities or family members. Jessie is also an artist, and she's on the faculty of DU in the Department of Art and Art History, and she uses her artistic and teaching practices to integrate visual language, communication, and neurodiversity. So it is my true pleasure to introduce Jessie to you all. Thank you.
Oh, wow, there's a lot of people here. I'm a little nervous. Good afternoon. I could not be happier to be here on IDD Awareness Day with all of you. I want to especially thank Alliance, the ARC, and my colleagues, friends, and the faculty and my mentors at JFK Partners. I'm especially grateful for your belief in me speaking today. I am the mother of 2 amazing humans. I'm very proud of them. They have taught me more about the human condition, about drive, about resilience, and about optimism than I ever thought possible. And this is coming from someone who has always been pretty optimistic. They are neurodivergent, with the most extraordinarily intricate minds that offer a unique and invaluable and utterly beautiful way of being in and seeing the world. They are autistic. They have ADHD. My eldest has dyslexia and trichotillomania. My youngest has speech apraxia, social anxiety, and situational mutism. They are my heart. As a parent advocate, I often share our lived experience in the hope of creating a more inclusive, loving, and accepting society where those with IDD are not given the message that they need to be ashamed of who they are, but that, like anyone else, they are capable, they do have gifts to share with the world, and they matter. What I've learned over the years is that even with the most loving, most empathetic, most understanding, and most passionate allies, if one has not shared the same lived experience, it can be hard to relate. However, through my art practice and advocacy, I have come to a wonderful understanding. There is one lived experience that we all share, the shared experience of being human. So today, acknowledging our shared human experience, I want to share an analogy that connects a vast number of people through a common lived experience. So I am a teacher, so bear with me here. We want to do a quick little exercise. If you wear glasses or contact lenses, raise your hand, stand up, or do a little dance in your chair. Let us know you're here. Wow, that's a lot of people. Keep them up, keep moving. Let's know you're out there. Great. Now, if you have a family member who wears glasses or contacts, join in. Okay. If you haven't already yet, but you have a close friend, colleague, or someone in your life who wears glasses, join us. I'm looking around. I think I see, I love the enthusiasm. I think I see almost everybody's hand up. Wow. Okay. Now, imagine that in our society, corrected vision was considered a disability. Everyone's standing, moving, or letting us know you're here, so almost this entire room. You all have the lived experience of having or being close to someone who has an intellectual or developmental disability. Now let's think together about what it would mean if corrected vision was considered and treated as a disability. Imagine you are at an eye exam. You put on your glasses and the doctor says, "Oh, great, your vision is perfect with these." But then they add, "You've been using your glasses for years. Shouldn't you be able to see without them by now? It's time to stop relying on them. Isn't independence what you want?" And suddenly you're expected to function without your glasses. You try your best, but you can't read, you can't cook, you can't read street signs or drive. You can't drive yourself to a job interview or read the job application in front of you. When you do go for an interview, you're told, "We need someone who reads more efficiently. We need someone with reliable and independent transportation." Unfortunately, you are not qualified. You didn't get the job. Not because you lacked qualifications, skills, desire, or work ethic, but because you were denied the tool you needed to see. Now imagine another scenario. You sit down for your eye exam and the doctor says, "Yes, your vision is definitely limited, but it's not limited enough to qualify for glasses. With a little more effort, if you try just a little harder, you should be able to see just fine." Or yes, vision is definitely limited, glasses could help, but there are people who need glasses more than you, so we're not going to give you any. Or "I just don't understand why you're having difficulty seeing. You are quite bright. You are too smart to need glasses." I have heard all of these things. We've been denied supports that were on my daughter's school's healthcare plan, outlined by a medical order from Children's Hospital and attached to her IEP because she was too bright to need that medical support. We've been told your child is doing really well. It's time to remove the supports. They need to be independent like other kids their age. They need to just try harder. And one of the most memorable, after not following the IEP and the supports that were supposed to be in place, "Are you sure this is the right school for your child? We don't want autistic kids here. We want independent learners." It is so common for parents to be told your child is fine. They're not failing, so they no longer need these supports. We've been told this. Or worse, they have a disability. They should be happy where they are at. Not all people are successful or high achievers. We've been told this too. And just like that, supports are taken away, not because they aren't working, but because they are. And when someone with IDD struggles without the supports that once helped them thrive, they are blamed. They just need to try harder. They need to be more independent. The reality is, they were never the problem. The system that shames people for needing supports and then strips the supports away is the problem. And when that happens, the impact isn't just frustration. It isn't just difficulty in school or employment. It is devastating. It is life-threatening. 40% of autistic youth meet the criteria for anxiety compared to 3 to 8% of the general population. It is estimated that 28 to 34% of the autistic youth have depression. 66% of autistic adults have contemplated suicide. 35% have attempted it. Autistic individuals have up to an 8-fold increase risk of death by suicide compared to non-autistic individuals. When we strip away supports, we are not just setting people up to struggle, we are putting their lives at risk. This is why I tell my children every single day, they matter, they are loved, they are brilliant, they are extraordinary, and they do not need to be fixed. No person is born feeling shame. No person is born feeling they do not matter, that they are not good enough, or that they are flawed. We, as society, teach people to believe this about themselves, and we have the power and the responsibility to change this. We must change how we think about disability and disability supports. Just like glasses help people see, supports help people with IDD succeed, not because they're failing, but because everyone deserves the tools they need to thrive. Right now in Colorado, thousands of individuals with IDD face unnecessary barriers. They are denied the supports they need to live independently, pursue meaningful careers, receive a quality education, and fully participate in their communities. Instead of being recognized for their strengths, they are too often defined by their challenges. And now, even the critical supports that do exist, such as Medicaid, the ADA, the Department of Education, and special education protections are at risk of being cut, threatening the well-being and futures of countless individuals. The system is broken, not because people with disabilities are incapable, but because we fail to provide consistent, reliable support. Our schools are filled with extraordinary educators, so talented, and I have two here with me today. Thank you. Yet they are expected to do their jobs without the necessary resources, all while receiving inadequate pay. This has a profound impact on special education and the children with IDD who rely on it. This is not right. Our teachers deserve better. Our children deserve better. I invite you, all of you, to join me in shifting society's perspective on IDD, not as something to pity, but as something to support. Just as glasses help people see, supports empower individuals with IDD to succeed, not because they are failing, but because everyone deserves the tools they need to thrive. We need improved access to services. We need to protect Medicaid, and we need to protect the ADA. Stronger employment opportunities, long-term person-centered planning, and equitable education supports and funding for our schools and teachers. We need the Department of Education and the assurance that all children with IDD have access to a free, appropriate public education. If we wouldn't take glasses away from someone who needs them, why are we taking away the essential supports that allow people with disabilities to succeed? This isn't about charity. It's about equity, dignity, and human rights. No one should be left behind simply because we refuse to provide what they need. Let's build a Colorado where everyone, regardless of ability, has a chance to live their best life. Thank you.
Jessie, that was awesome. Thank you for sharing your story. I know that's very difficult, especially in front of 350 people. And for those of you online, I know even in the chat box, they were saying this is a really powerful story. So that she did get a standing ovation here in the room. So thank you again. All right, we have our keynote speaker. She is taking some time out of probably the busiest day of your year, but it's been quite a year. We did give them an update on kind of where we are budget-wise, but I do want to just take a moment to recognize this year's keynote speaker, Senator Kirkmeyer. Senator Kirkmeyer is from Weld County, and fun fact, there is like 3 of our speakers are from Weld County today. What are you all doing in Weld County? Yeah, all right here. Wow. Yeah, so you'll hear a lot about Weld County today, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about Senator Kirkmeyer. She is the Colorado IDD Legislator of 2024, and this honor recognizes legislators who are dedicated to supporting Coloradans with IDD and community-based agencies that serve them. Senator Kirkmeyer's advocacy on the Joint Budget Committee ensured that critical IDD services received funding. Here are just a few of the examples of some of the funding that she worked on and approved last year. 129 new DD waiver resources or enrollments were funded, providing essential supports to families. Medicaid reimbursement rates for pediatric behavioral therapists was increased, helping families continue those services. Community access team housing vouchers were expanded, allowing individuals with IDD to secure stable housing. Early intervention services received increases for kids 0 to 3, as well as $27 million in financial relief for the case management agencies that were working through case management redesign. So a lot, and that's just some of the stuff, and for years I've been a supporter. So we now welcome to the stage our Legislator of the Year, Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you. That was super nice. I really appreciate it. And Jessie, where'd you go? You are awesome. That speech was awesome. It was great. Let's give her another round. Absolutely. And as you notice, I wear eyeglasses, and my 10-year-old grandson had to get eyeglasses this year. And I told him, I said, don't be afraid when you go into the eye doctor. You're going to fail the test just like your grandmother does. It's okay, right? You're going to be fine. But anyways, thank you, and hello to everybody. Thank you for inviting me to come speak at your luncheon here today. Greatly appreciate the opportunity. You've got great staff. I just want you to know they've done great. Like, they even printed off my bullet points for me because they knew I didn't have time. So thank you so much. I'll probably stick to some of them, but I probably won't stick to all of them because some of my speech points were already mentioned. But just thank you. And thank you for bringing awareness to legislators and to, quite frankly, everybody with regard to IDD and the importance of looking at how do we support this population of Coloradoans, because it's extremely important. You know, I don't know that I necessarily have any personal connections like many of you in this room do. But I will tell you how I approach things and why. When I was growing up, I grew up on a dairy farm in North Jefferson County. And we were poor. There were 11 people around the dinner table. My grandmother, my great uncle, I have 6 siblings, my mom and my dad. And when you were told to get to the table, you got to the table, because if you didn't get to the table, you probably wouldn't get any food. So we had meat and milk because of the dairy farm. We had a lot of potatoes and pretty much whatever we could grow in our garden that we canned. So even under those circumstances, my parents taught us at very early age, and I would say all my siblings have lived through this and done this, we were taught to take care of the elderly, and we were taught to take care of those who are less fortunate than you. Because no matter how unfortunate you may be, no matter what your circumstances are, there's always someone who is less fortunate than you. So that's what I carry in my heart as I move forward when I was a county commissioner and now as a state senator and even being on the Joint Budget Committee. Those are the lessons that I have learned from my parents that I bring forward. And it's very important to me that we do look out for those that are less fortunate in any way. So when I'm sitting in committee, in the Education Committee a few years ago, and I'm listening to, and it actually was an interim committee on school finance. And I was a second-year legislator, so it's not like I knew very much about school finance yet, other than that we had a School Finance Act. And I didn't really know all that much about education, other than I had one. But I was sitting there listening to this gentleman from Windsor, Weld County. And he was talking about our special education program in our schools. And he was telling us how underfunded it was, like dramatically underfunded. And, you know, I'm sitting there writing notes and listening to him, and he's also going on to explain how back in 2006, the General Assembly made a promise. So think about it, it's 2023 when I'm sitting in this committee, 2022, somewhere in there. 2006, the General Assembly had made a commitment to fund special education resources through the state of Colorado, to fund Tier A, which I'm sure you all are familiar with, to fund Tier A at $1,250, and to fund Tier B, and we have like, I think 100, there's like 100, and at that time there was like 135,000 children that had IEPs and were in these tiers, and to fund Tier B at $6,000. So from 2006 to 2023, we didn't keep our promise. So it was Senator Zenzinger and I who passed several bills with regard to special education needs and funding, and we were able to up that funding by not just a couple of million, but over $100 million annually that increases by inflation. And so last week when I'm sitting in the Joint Budget Committee and we're talking about increasing the budget for the categoricals, which special education is one, and someone says, well, we need to move money from that categorical over to something else. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not going to get to do that because we doubled down on the constitutional mandate to increase our funding by inflation and put it in the bill that they had to increase that funding by inflation. So not only did we get the $1,250 raised to $1,750 plus inflation every year, we're still not at the $6,000, but we're getting close. And we're a lot closer, and it is our intent to work to fully fund it. But that's how important it is that you're all engaged, because some of you must have gone and spoken to some of the other JBC members. Maybe it was Emma, I'm not sure, but maybe some of you spoke to your JBC members who are like, yeah, we can't cut that funding. So that's good. But it's extremely important that you are engaged and that you're getting those stories out, like Jamie's, to legislators so they understand what truly is going on here. The Joint Budget Committee, we are in a serious situation. We are in what's called a structural deficit. It is not that we have a bad economy. We're not in a recession. We have just been overspending for the last 4, 5, 6 years, year over year overspending. And so we find ourselves in a structural deficit where we are looking to cut about $1 billion from our general fund operating budget. So when you hear that the state of Colorado has a $42 or $45 billion budget, a lot of that is federal funds. Some of it is cash funds, which comes from fees. And then there's the general fund operating budget, which is primarily what the Joint Budget Committee looks at and works on. But it's where, I mean, those matching funds come from for HCPF to pull down, Medicaid dollars or to pull down child welfare dollars. And we've been having some pretty hard discussions at the Joint Budget Committee. But I will tell you going into this, and I saw, where Representative Byrd was also one of your legislators of the year, and she's also on the Joint Budget Committee. We have been very clear about what our priorities are. And it is funding education, K through 12 and post-secondary, and funding Medicaid provider rates. Those are our top 2 priorities. So I just want you to imagine, and for those of you who know me, you could probably imagine this, how ticked off I was when the governor came in with a budget request to cut the pediatric behavior therapy rate. The rate that I worked really hard to get a supplemental on last year to get it increased by $19 million, and he came in with a $19 million cut. That was in November. By January, he saw the light and took it out of his budget request. Unfortunately, he didn't take out other cuts to Medicaid providers out of his budget request and out of the Department of Healthcare Policy and Finance's budget request, which would have totaled, just with some of the provider rates that they were looking to decrease, $57 million. That's a big darn deal. That's federal money, it's general fund money, but to say we're going to cut provider rates and make them at 95% of Medicare, that's just unrealistic. It's just ridiculous. So we were able to, with help of other Joint Budget Committee members, but I just have to tell you it was kind of odd because I am a Republican. There are 2 Republicans on the Joint Budget Committee. There are 4 Democrats. So I even had one of my Democrat colleagues say, it's kind of odd that we have a Republican who's arguing to increase provider rates for Medicaid. And I'm like, I don't know why that's odd, because these are Coloradoans that are less fortunate than we are, that we do have an obligation to support, that they don't need to be fixed. They just need this support so that they can thrive in their lives. That's why the pediatric behavioral therapy codes and getting that increase was so important last year. I remember sitting at a table with Kim Bimsteffer from the Executive Director of Healthcare Policy and Finance and looking at her because she would not put in a supplemental to increase those rates. She would not put it in when we knew we were losing providers throughout the state. And I looked at her and to be very candid, I don't have anyone in my close family that has autism or is on the spectrum. But I do understand how important it is that they get their evaluation around 3 years of age, and that they don't get put on a waiting list until they're 6 or 7 years of age, because that dramatically impacts their quality of life when they're an adult. If we get them, thank you, but and it's just unbelievable to me that I have to have this discussion, and I'm not an expert by any means. I am not an expert. To have this discussion with the Executive Director of Healthcare Policy and Finance is beyond me. Why she doesn't understand that, I just don't get it. But I am and when I get ticked off, as Emma knows, I do get ticked off. And I'm sure there are other people in the room that know that too. But last week, I think it was last week, every week, I never really know what day we're on until I look at my phone. But last week, I think it was last week, we had to have an emergency meeting of the Joint Budget Committee with the Early Childhood Department, because they said we cut the budget for early intervention programs. We didn't cut the budget. The JBC did not do that. The early intervention program over at the Early Childhood Department, they're the ones who thought it was a good idea to cut the budget and cut the contracts in our early intervention program. So we sat there at the Joint Budget Committee talking through how we were going to find funding right after we grilled the people from the Early Childhood Department and asked them what the hell they were doing. Right? That's just wrong. And even now, I want you to know, these departments come in front of the Joint Budget Committee and they have the opportunity, 1, to submit a budget request. 2, we get briefed on that budget request. 3, we have a hearing with the department on their budgets. At no time did they tell us there was a concern that there wasn't going to be enough funding for early intervention programs to get through the rest of the year. At no time did they say in their 25-26 request that they needed additional funding for the early intervention program. At no time did they say that to the Joint Budget Committee. You would think the committee that has control over where the funding goes in this state with regard to general fund money to pull down federal funds, you would think they would be having those conversations with us. We found out at the same time it was on Channel 7 News or Channel 4 News, whatever channel it was on. That's when we found out. That's why the next day we had that emergency meeting. So I'm telling you these stories because it is extremely important that you all stay engaged. It's extremely important not only that you talk to Joint Budget Committee members, but that you talk to other legislators like Senator Mark Snyder, who's in the room. It's important that you talk to all of us, because there will come a day, and it's going to be a week late, but it'll probably be in about 2 weeks from now, where every legislator on the Senate floor has an opportunity to put their fingerprints on the budget. Because even though the Joint Budget Committee writes the budget, that's our responsibility, it is the legislative branch that has to pass a constitutionally mandated balanced budget. So in about a week or so, 2 weeks or so, somewhere in there, Senator Snyder will have an opportunity to make sure he's putting his fingerprints on that budget. And so if we screwed up at the Joint Budget Committee, it's his turn to come up to us and say, why'd you cut that program that's so important to all these people? So that's why it's important that you stay engaged with everyone. And I will tell you, the emails that I receive from families, from parents, they are heartbreaking, but they are extremely meaningful. They're about like that speech we just heard from Jessie, and they come with pictures. And I'm sitting there on a Sunday afternoon flipping through
hundreds of emails from folks thanking me for the job I do. I want you to have those same folks speak to every legislator, send their story to every legislator about how important early intervention program funding is, about how important pediatric behavior therapy funding is, about how important Medicaid funding is. It's important we have assessments. It's important that we understand we're not just trying to fix somebody. We're trying to make sure that they have a quality life as an adult, and that parents can see that and feel that for their children. That's extremely important. That's the Colorado way. So let's make sure, as you're out doing your jobs, please tell them to send those messages to others as well, to other legislators as well. And then what the heck, I could probably give you the governor's cell phone number. You should probably text him too. It would be good. But with that, you already heard about some of the other stuff we've done, so I'm not going to repeat it, but I am just going to tell you again, thank you. Thank you for all the work that you do. It's extremely important. I know in Weld County, I was a Weld County commissioner, I know we would have days where we would celebrate these awareness days, and we would celebrate, child welfare. I just greatly, greatly appreciate the work that you do for people of Colorado. It's extremely important what you do. I know it's a tough job, but know that I've got your back, and I think so does the rest of the Joint Budget Committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Senator Kirkmeyer. I really appreciate your words. And coming from case management, trying to find services for all of those families and individuals, we really appreciate your hard work. So I'm Linda Medina. I'm very honored to have been the first recipient of the Case Manager of the Year Award. Sorry, just give me a second. All of a sudden, I was breathless. Thank you very much to Celeste Ewert, my previous supervisor and director at Envision, for writing such a wonderful nomination last year. I've been privileged to work with, be mentored by, and share challenges with many knowledgeable and wonderful case managers over the years, all of whom were very worthy of this award. And I have the honor of continuing to work with many wonderful case managers. I personally was raised by parents with learning disabilities, not realizing why my parents were so different from other parents until I became a case manager and learned about qualifying criteria for intellectual and developmental disabilities. My dad worked as a laborer all of his life, often working 2 jobs to support us. My mother worked in a sheltered workshop after her children all left home. She worked on a contract for the Navy doing sewing bags or something like that. Growing up, she was a stay-at-home mom raising her 6 children with help along the way from her parents and our church. My mother would practice reading often. She read out loud. She always read out loud. I don't think she knew how to read quietly to herself. And it was very slowly, using her finger to follow along with the words. As a young child sitting on her lap when she read, I memorized those words. So essentially learning to read before the age of 4. I even recall one situation where she took her finger away from those words, and I took her hand and placed it right back because otherwise I was afraid I was going to lose my place. My mother's challenge became my step up. It frustrated my first grade teacher that I had no patience for sounding out words, but then she would have me read to the class to give herself a break. My mother read wonderful chapter books to us, including The Boxcar Children and The Velvet Room. Those are 2 that stand out in my mind. Giving me the gift of imagination and seeing the stories in my head, and a lifelong love of reading. In many ways, it feels inevitable that I became a case manager, using lessons from my youth to always recognize people as individuals with their own gifts. This past year has been filled with many challenges for everyone, but of course I am acutely aware of the challenges for case managers and the challenges that those placed on many of our families, many individuals receiving services. My goal and that of most case managers has been to minimize disruptions to people receiving services. I know that we've been quite successful in that effort at Weld County Case Management Agency, and we hope that we're able to continue that success as we move forward with even more changes to come. With all of the changes from the past year and those still to come, I would like to recognize every case manager who has hung in there and provided their best. The list of nominees for this year's award embodies the commitment of case managers, making the final decision of the winner likely next to impossible. And I'm so fortunate I didn't have to make that decision. But the decision was made, and now it is my honor to recognize the finalists for this award. So those finalists are Libby Hoy of Foothills Gateway, Kaylin Barraza of Rocky Mountain Human Services, Hannah Zorn, Community Connections, and the winner of the second annual Case Manager of the Year Award is Hannah Zorn. Please. Please come join us, Hannah. Are you here?
Congratulations. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mamadou Ouattara, and I'm a direct support professional with DDRC. I have been working as a DSP with DDRC for over 16 years. And the first time in my career, I was selected as the DSP of the Year by Alliance in 2024. I am very honored and proud to represent all the DSP in our community that work with the developmental disability population. I want to thank all the individuals I have worked with over the years, DDRC directors, managers, all my co-workers, and all entire IDD community for allowing me to learn, grow, help, and serve our community of developmentally disabled individuals. I work in a group home setting Monday through Friday as a DSP. I am counted on to come to work every day give my best effort, and ensure the individual I serve are happy, healthy, and safe always. Coming to America, French was my first language, and I didn't know much English, which was scary. It was. But people helped me, so I love to help back. Mainly people who need the most. One thing that surprised me, oh yes, it did surprise me, was that the IDT population understood me the better. Yeah, I learned. Yeah, they do. So that's the reason I love so much this job. I learned from them that we can communicate in another way, different than language. So by our body language, facial expression, etc. The IDD community made me feel welcome and made this community as a home, away from home. That is why I work hard, so hard for them, so they can have a better life. I know the people that I work with depend on me to bring my best foot forward, and why would not? I know that their lives and maybe well-being are in my hand. So congratulations to all the other DSP who were this year's award nominees, finalists, and the winner. The work that all DSP do is so valuable. Lastly, I will want to wish the 2025 winner the best of luck going forward, as I know winning the award doesn't mean that my job is done and I get to go home. It only means that I need to work just as hard going forward so I can represent my name and DDRC going forward for many, many years to come. Thank you all. Thank you. Please take a moment to review the amazing list of DSP nominees you see on the screen. We are so fortunate to have so many dedicated, talented people who are willing not only to take on this difficult and rewarding job, but to excel at it. Many of us in this room see firsthand every day the impact DSP have on the lives of the people they support. This year, DSP of the Year nominees share several things in common. A willingness to go above and beyond what is required of them, and an ability to see solutions where others see only barriers. And most importantly, a deep and yielding commitment to the people they serve. To all of the DSP nominees, thank you for your skillfulness and dedication. You also appreciate. Let's give them a round of applause, please. All of our nominees are incredible, but a few in particular stood out to the selection committees. As I read each of your names, please give wave on how your table or supporters give a shout out so that we may recognize you as a finalist. Well, sorry, I will maybe do some French accent. Spencer Gaucher from Imagine. Dan Cromer from Dan Carvin of Colorado, and Kris Leroy from Vision. Sorry, but really, I try my best. So now, yeah, this is our 3 finalists, and now we're gonna maybe talk about the winner. Congratulations to Kwan Miller from Duncan, Colorado Springs. Unfortunately, he's not here today, but his director, Bruce, will maybe. Bruce, come on, please. Dan has been a dedicated day program provider for 22 years. His person-centered approach ensures those he supports live fulfilling, meaningful lives. Through his maybe deeper commitment to relationship and wavering support, Dan exemplifies what it means to provide person-centered care, making him a deserving honoree. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kris Housel, and I am honored to join you today to celebrate IDD Awareness Day. As a privilege to be recognized as the inaugural self-advocate in the year 2024, I am thrilled to celebrate this year's nominees and award the winner to you. As a passionate self-advocate, my life has been shaped by one of love and support by my family, my friends, my incredible organization, which many of them are here today. When I was born, the medical community advised my family to do what was best for me by placing me in an institution. My father's response was simple: absolutely not. And that was the beginning of my journey in self-advocacy. At the time, my dad understood the expectations of me was, what an institution environment was providing me, and more importantly, what it was not. He knew that the path wouldn't allow me to reach my fulfilled potential. It wouldn't let me learn beyond the imposed limitations. It wouldn't support me in an inclusive workplace. It wouldn't empower me to make an impact. Serving on the board of Northeast Colorado, the ARC of Colorado, or as a member of the Northern Colorado or the National Council of Self-Advocacy. It wouldn't provide me with the future that I deserved. So what makes me different than others born with IDD? Why is my story different from other self-advocates' experience? The answer is simple. It's not. I am no different or better than children born before me or after me with IDD. We are all wonderfully made, and we all have meaningful contributions to offer to our families, friends, communities, and the world. The difference is opportunity. I was given the opportunity to learn, to grow, and determine my own future. That is why Medicaid and home community-based services provide me support for people like me, like your neighbors, your peers, and your community members. Without these services, our opportunities are lost. People are lost. Our shared future is diminished. That's why I encourage each of you to support your elected officials here in this room, at our state legislature, and in Washington, D.C. to protect those critical services. They don't just live up to individuals with IDD. They strengthen the diversity and value of our communities. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. It is an honor to be a self-advocate and work alongside you in creating a better future for today and tomorrow. And now I have the great privilege of honoring other advocates who provided outstanding advocacy to serve people with IDD. Please take a moment to review the list of nominees, candidates for this award. Maybe people who have lived and experienced others who demonstrated a dedication of advocacy on behalf of people with IDD. All the nominees are incredible. Please wave or have your table or supporter cheer so that we may recognize you. And now I'm honored to present to you the Advocate of the Year finalists. Cece Lascalia from the Arc of Arapahoe, Douglas, and Elbert counties. Gabby Gonzalez from Friends of Broomfield. And Brett Biles from the Arc of Jefferson. And the winner of this year's 2025 Advocate of the Year Award, congratulations to Beth Biles from the Arc of Jefferson, Clear Creek, and Gilpin County. Brett, please come up while I read some of your highlights from your nominations. Brett is the Arc Jefferson, Clear Creek, and Gilpin counties for consulting advocacy and his dedication, his career to ensuring people with disabilities have full access to their communities. He mentors residents' transportation from intellectual settings, is co-developed a unique training gives life ability talk for self-advocates for help his peers access housing, transportation, essential services. His tireless efforts continues to create lasting and essential services. His tireless efforts continues to create lasting changes, ensuring that individuals with IDD are heard, respected, and empowered. Congratulations again, Brett. Congratulations.
Congratulations to all of our winners. Thank you to all of our speakers, our special guests for attending. I also want to thank these agencies. I want to thank the Denver Art Museum for this beautiful venue and the great service they provided us today. And remind you that if you would like to take a tour of the Denver Museum, all you have to do is stop back by our check-in table and they will give you a sticker, a pass that gives you full access to the Denver Museum if you'd like to take a stroll. I also want to thank North Metro Community Services for the shuttle service from the Capitol over to the Denver Art Museum today. Thank you. Very helpful. I want to thank Visible Voices for our CART captioning. I want to thank McBoke Photography for capturing our moments together today. And of course, all of the volunteers who help us put this together. It literally takes an army to make this all come to fruition. So there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. Please also thank our volunteers. So this is the conclusion of the program, and I think what I would like to just reiterate, we heard earlier today that our budget, we're in a serious situation. A structural deficit was what it was called. And we have to insist on investing in people, not things. And we have to share the stories about how we can invest in people, not things, to continue to make Colorado a place where all of us can live, love, work, play, thrive, laugh, do all the things that we do in equity together. It's been said that real change, enduring change, happens one little step at a time. Together, we can make that difference, one step at a time. So thank you for coming here and taking a step toward raising the voices of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, for raising awareness around the lives, the stories, the needs of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This concludes our luncheon. Thank all of you for coming, and don't forget to meet your neighbor if you haven't yet. Make sure you get that introduction in, because we are stronger together. Thank you so much.